Tonight, we reveal the winners of the 2021 National Reuse Awards, the Reusies, the first award show to honor the game-changing heroes of the reuse movement.
We're here to celebrate the people working to make throwaway go away by helping small businesses save money and produce less waste.
By creating products, services, and systems that make reuse intuitive, easy, and fun.
And by activating people in their communities to end single use once and for all.
Welcome to the Reusies, the National Reuse Awards, presented by Upstream
And Closed Loop Partners.
The Reusies begin in
3, 2, 1.
$150 million metric tons of plastic lives in our oceans, and that number is growing exponentially. Plastic pollution is expected to triple in the next 20 years. If we don't change course, by the year 2041, the children of Gen Z will visit beaches and coastlines riddled with pollution. But we won't let that happen, because we know what the problems are. The old school throwaway models that have defined the way we eat, live, work, and play. A system that incentivizes waste and does not value reduce or reuse, rewards extraction and landfill companies, and does not benefit consumers or communities. The result? A helplessness in many communities from the onslaught, an addiction to single-use packaging and stuff that is literally trashing our communities and waterways and oceans. An addiction enabled by the global COVID-19 pandemic. During the pandemic, Americans Amazon Primed, DoorDashed, and Yelped its way into a 250 to 300% increase of single-use plastic alone. Now, imagine a different version of the year 2041. Clean beaches, shorelines, and oceans, coral reefs thriving, exponentially less waste in our cities and towns, and an entire economy, a circular economy, that is intuitive and mimics the circle of life, where waste doesn't exist. It's not some utopian fever dream. We can make this vision a reality. Tonight, we are here to celebrate the people working to, save the world. Our heroes without capes. The innovators of reuse, who are making the way we live less wasteful, who are figuring out how to get us what we want and need without all the waste. The icons of zero waste who are advocating, innovating, organizing, blogging, gramming, TikToking to challenge apathetic attitudes. And the investors in this new circular economy who are proving that it don't make green dollars if it don't make green sense. Tonight, we honor the people who are dedicating their lives to cleaning up the mess we humans have made and creating something beautiful in its place. Our heroes without capes. This is the Reusies, and I'm your host, Danny Washington. I've dreamed of exploring the ocean since I was 6 years old. Back then, I didn't see many women who looked like me in the field of ocean science. Fast forward to today, I'm the first African American woman to host her own science television series. And around me, I see more and more women in the fields of ocean science and STEM. With all there is to celebrate, we have a long way to go. But I consider myself an ocean optimist, and I'm passionate about protecting the planet, on land and at sea, from joining conversations like this one that drive the changes we need to see, from scuba diving to restoring coral reefs. I'm also a mocha mermaid, part of a community of other melanated mermaids and merfolks around the world, a school of fierce protectors of the ocean. I am honored to support the reuse movement and welcome you all to the National Reuse Awards, the Reusies 2021, presented by Upstream and Closed Loop Partners. Now, a message to our Reusies VIP table holders. You're about to be automatically connected to your private VIP room. This is important. The show will be live streamed to your room, so that means everyone will be on mute. But no worries, you'll have access to your own private chat room during the show.
Hi, everyone. I'm so honored to share my passion for music and songwriting at the 2021 National Reuse Awards, the Reusies. As we envision a future for ourselves, for our children, and for our children's children, let's see a world without all the waste that is destroying our oceans, our forests, and our planet. Now is the time to clean up our act. I'm here to continue the tradition of my late father, Bill Withers, using music to touch hearts and impact change. This performance is dedicated to him.
When I wake up in the morning, love, and the sunlight hurts my eyes, and something without warning, love, bears heavy on my mind. Then I look at you, and the world's alright with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely, 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 lovely day. Lovely, lovely, lovely day. Lovely, lovely, lovely day. When the day that lies ahead of me seems impossible to face, and when someone else instead of me always seems to know the way, then I look at you, and the world's alright with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be lovely, 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 lovely day. Lovely, lovely day. Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely day. Lovely, lovely, lovely day. Lovely, lovely, lovely day. When the day that lies ahead of me seems impossible to face, and when someone else instead of me always seems to know the way, then I look at you, and the world's alright with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely, 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 lovely day. Lovely, lovely day. Lovely, lovely day. A lovely, 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 lovely day. Lovely, lovely, lovely day. Then I look at you, and the world's alright with me. Just one look at you, it's gonna be a lovely, 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 lovely day. Lovely, lovely day. A lovely, 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 lovely day. Lovely, lovely, lovely day.
The nominees for the Reusies Activist of the Year are Craig W. Cadwallader, Policy Coordinator at the Surfrider Foundation's South Bay chapter of California. Long city council meetings and complex policies are no match for Craig. 10 years ago, he helped push through the LA County bag ban against single-use plastic carryout bags. Recently, he brought his magic touch to Culver City, leading the effort to pass a waste reduction ordinance requiring reusables for all on-site dining. Crystal Dreisbach, founder of Green to Go and executive director of Don't Waste Durham in North Carolina. Crystal is the mastermind behind Green to Go, a community nonprofit running a reusable takeout service with 25 participating restaurants and grocery stores working together to avoid the use of thousands of single-use takeout containers. And Anukampa Freedom Gupta Fauner, Chief Imagineer of Design by Freedom. She and her team follow a strict plastic-free diet. Its service? Called Get Groceries, using an electric vehicle to deliver waste-free packaged groceries to people in the Washington, D.C. metro area. With their next order, shoppers return the reusable packaging. Groceries in reusable containers delivered to your door. It's happening. And the Reusie for Activist of the Year goes to Crystal Dreisbach, founder of Green to Go and executive director of Don't Waste Durham in North Carolina.
Hey everyone, you all look wonderful tonight. I'm grateful and very honored to be the recipient of a Reusies Award. Thank you to Upstream and Closed Loop Partners for creating this opportunity, and to my supporters for their nomination and votes. Sometimes prevention is not as sexy or as high visibility as we'd like it to be, but it is indeed what the world needs. So this award represents recognition for my years of persistence, and it means a lot to me. My activism work is made possible by my mighty team at Don't Waste Durham, who I want to make sure to thank profusely. Our nonprofit creates systemic change solutions that prevent trash, from policy to advocacy to reuse systems that show the world that another way is viable and necessary. Let's all continue this work to make reuse the norm and not the exception. I'm never giving up, and I hope you won't either. Thank you so much for this award. I truly treasure it.
Tonight, we've assembled a panel of reuse heroes to talk about what needs to happen to save our oceans and our planet. Introducing our panel. So we have Bridget Croak, Managing Director at Closed Loop Partners, a New York-based investment and innovation firm and focused on building the circular economy. We've got Matt Prindiville, CEO and Chief Solutioneer at Upstream, an environmental nonprofit sparking innovative solutions to plastic pollution by shifting from single-use to reuse. We also have Elizabeth Segren, or Liz, Senior Staff Writer at Fast Company Magazine. And we've got Benjamin Van Wong, visual artist, activist, and influencer. Welcome, everybody. Great to see you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Great to be here, Danny.
My first question to each of you has two parts. The first part is, what is your vision of a future without waste? And number two, how do you each elevate this vision through the work that you're doing in the world? I'd love to kick it off with Bridget, if you don't mind starting off and showing us and telling us your vision.
Great. Yeah, glad to be here. At Close Loop Partners, we're fulfilling that vision by investing in early stage innovation from reusable, refillable models and infrastructure around both recycling and reuse models and kind of other innovation across the supply chain in order to scale what we call the circular economy, which solves to that. Right now, we are spending a lot of money to throw valuable resources away. So we're envisioning a world where you can design waste out of the world and turn that waste into something that's valuable resources so that the packaging we're using today becomes the feedstock for future packaging and we extend the life of products and packaging.
Love that. Thank you, Bridget. And Liz, what about you as a journalist? What have you seen and what's the vision that you think we're hopefully going to achieve in the future?
So I write mostly about the fashion industry, which is a hugely wasteful industry, both from the consumer perspective, we wear our clothes a few times and then we throw them away, to the entire supply chain. It's just an incredibly wasteful landscape out there. And what we're seeing now is really interesting circular models where clothes get sort of extended because people are, reselling them or they're different sharing services. But my real exciting sort of vision for the future is a world where we can recycle clothes the way that we're currently recycling a lot of other products. There are actually really cool fashion recycling technologies that are on the cusp of being made. I can't wait to see that happen.
That's incredible. Thank you so much, Liz. Ben, what about you? Visual arts, how are you bringing your vision to life through your work?
I mean, my dream, the world that I wish we could live in is one where we didn't always have to second guess every single purchase decision. I dream of a world in which every decision is just easy and natural, so that it's not, we don't walk into a supermarket and realize that like 95% of what's there are things that that aren't designed to be reused. They're just designed to be disposed. The work that I do, though, really focuses, I think, on closing the gap between the heart and the mind. And so the work that I do tries to highlight how all these different tiny little consumption decisions really add up over time. And so I think it's one thing to read a fact, and it's another thing to see a piece of art and to feel it. And that's what I hope to do.
That definitely resonates with me, Ben. I mean, it feels like a constant tug of war between the heart and the mind, making decisions day in and day out and wanting to do the best that you can with what you have. And Matt, your vision, what's your vision?
Yeah, I love that too, Ben. Our vision at Upstream is really that, 10, 15 years from now, you go to any city in the world and you're not going to see any more overflowing garbage cans. You're not going to see any litter on the streets. You're not going to see any plastic on the beaches or wildlife choking on plastic. And you're certainly not going to see any disposable stuff when you go out to eat at a restaurant or when you're getting a meal delivered to your home or you're ordering your groceries or ordering products online, because the companies that we're featuring tonight will have replicated and scaled throughout the world, and the activists that we're honoring will have passed policies throughout the world, and we really will have figured out how to get the things that we want and need without generating any waste. So this is really kind of our dream at Upstream. It's what gets all of us excited to get up in the morning and go to work.
Love that, Matt. Thank you so much. And, I'm most excited about being here tonight because of this vision. You all are the visionaries, and we're going to see a lot more of them throughout the show, but it's so important that we continue to build our vision individually and collectively, especially in times like this, trying times where things seem impossible, but yet it's those people who are brave enough to step up, stand up, and speak up and actually take action. That's the way we're going to get to the vision that we're all seeking. So I'm super thrilled to be here. Here's a chance to win a prize right now during the Reusies. Get ready. Head to the window under the video player. The first person to answer the trivia question correctly wins. All right, so here's the question. When did Coke stop refilling soda bottles? A, 1992, B, 2008, C, never. They just don't do it in the US. So we know that we need to innovate our way out of the current situation, not just wallow in what we did before. Our nominees for the most impactful community leadership award are doing just that. They are winning the battle against what can be called waste apathy, using creative and highly visible campaigns that have transformed their towns and cities. Here are the nominees for the Most Impactful Community Leadership Award. Reusable LA, a coalition of over 30 organizations with legislative juggernauts and community activists in Los Angeles who are actively working with politicians and their communities to move forward a holistic approach, moving beyond bag and straw bans by championing a reuse and refill culture and advocating for comprehensive policies. From Los Feliz to West Hollywood to Hyde Park, Reusable LA engages the diverse neighborhoods and people of LA to act. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Reusable LA engaged hundreds of Angelinos, including restaurant owners, to get Skip the Stuff legislation passed in 4 municipalities in LA County, the largest county in the country with over 10 million people. And Zero Waste Humboldt of Northern California. Its mission is to reduce waste through grassroots organizing and making reuse systems more visible, like its annual We Choose to Reuse campaign on social media, and its Refill Not Landfill water bottle refill stations. In just 5 years, 100,000 water bottles have been saved from the landfill. Zero Waste Humboldt transformed the North Country Fair, which attracts 10,000 attendees a year, into an outdoor event that now produces 500% less waste.
Hello, my name is Ashima Sukhdev and I'm the North America Programs Lead at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. I am thrilled to be with all of you tonight to celebrate the heroes of reuse at the first ever National Reuse Awards. And the Reusee for Most Impactful Community Leadership goes to Reusable LA.
Hi, my name is Melissa Aguayo.
Hi, I'm Allison Woloszewski.
Hi, I'm Emily Parker.
And we're the Reusable LA co-chairs. On behalf of Reusable LA, we are so grateful for this incredible recognition and honor.
Our coalition of 30 plus organizations has been working so hard over the last few years to fight plastic pollution in Los Angeles.
And we look forward to another year of advocacy working on plastic reduction policies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's get into some more questions, some of the nitty-gritty stuff. I think it's important that we kind of step back a bit and talk about how do we get here, where we are in our present time, the challenges that we're facing, within every type of industry, the environment, everything included in the work that you do. We're all tackling different challenges. So how do we get here? And I'd love to begin first with Ben. From your perspective, what do you think brought us to this point?
Somewhere along the line, I don't think plastic in and of itself is a bad material. It's actually a fantastic material, but the way we use it, the disposable culture of convenience that we've kind of adopted is really the core of the problem. Like when the average single-use plastic item is used for less than 10 minutes and then thrown away, it's just, it doesn't actually matter what kind of material we use. It's probably not going to be a long-term solution regardless.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, and I guess, Liz, from your work and your writing, I know you've probably done lots of in-depth research about this world that we're in. And I'm just curious, from your perspective beyond fashion, like what else have you seen or observed and researched through your writing?
I think it's really interesting because there was this kind of shift in the way that we thought about almost every form of consumption, where, it wasn't really that long ago that people were looking for and had durable products in their life. And so that applied to clothes, but it applied to almost everything in their lives, right? The concept of, plastic bags that you would throw away. I mean, that's a relatively new concept. Things like takeout containers. I mean, 1 or 2 generations ago, that wasn't something that people had, right? Our parents, and we have collective memory here. We can look at how, our grandparents lived or our great grandparents lived. And they were surrounded by these products that were well-made, durable, designed to last a lifetime, ideally things that would get passed on to their children. And so to me, I think that that's really encouraging, because if part of this is not just about the science and the technology of creating these products, but about culture, I believe that there are ways that we can change culture and change it relatively quickly.
Absolutely. Definitely encouraging. And, like I mentioned before, we're living in trying times and having to deal with COVID-19 pandemic. We've seen an upsurgence of single-use products because of the pandemic, and that has shifted the game a bit, but it also provides an extraordinary opportunity for us to create a new way, a different way. And Matt, I know that you've been in this realm and this work for a long, long time. Talk about where you began, what inspired you to even jump into this space, and yeah, how did we get here?
Well, that's I think for me, just like thinking about how we got to where we are today, right now, I think that question to me is fascinating, and I spent a bit of time researching that over my career. I think to really understand it, you have to go back in time to this post World War II era. You had all of these extraction and manufacturing industries that had ramped up their production to serve the war effort. But once the war was over, they were like, what are we going to do? And, this idea was born that we have to keep churning all these materials through the economy in peacetime as well as in wartime. And one of those big ideas was to sell all those natural resources and materials to the American people in the form of disposable products. And, you flash forward, 50, 60 years in the future, and we had the drive-in restaurant giving way to the drive-through restaurant, and to-go coffee was invented, and to-go containers, and all the meal delivery that we're seeing today that Liz was talking about. And when you think about it, you've got all of these disposable materials that are being churned through the economy by billions of people, billions of times a day after day, year after year. All for this like ephemeral little moment of having a bite to eat or drinking a drink. And so when you think about that, it's really an astounding amount of natural resources. And for me, that was the thing that got me motivated. Like we have to stop extracting all of these natural resources from the planet. We have to figure out how to kind of close the extraction side of the economy, close the waste side of the economy, and build a more circular economy. And that's really what motivated me 20 some odd years ago when I got into this business. Reading Bill McDonald's Cradle to Cradle and Paul Hawkins' The Ecology of Commerce. Those two books were kind of like seminal books in my upbringing around this stuff.
That's so awesome, Matt. Yeah, and taking that culture of convenience and transforming it into a culture of reuse and durable goods, things that last. I mean, that is just, to me, it's a mindset. And, Bridget, your work at Closed Loop Partners, you guys are the really visionaries that are investing in this future that we all want.
A lot of people around the world, in the US and some other markets, it's like we drink coffee out of paper cups that has a plastic lining. But is that really the best experience that people could have drinking a cup of coffee? A lot of people would say no. So if we think about how to create that great consumer experience, there's a ton of money to be made there. And the reality is that some of the largest consumer brands, they make money on the products. The packaging is a cost center. If they can reduce those costs, and if there's solutions to that, the revenue opportunity is still there, and we can create a better consumer experience, make it more convenient, and reduce packaging and waste around the world. I don't know if that is why I got into it.
No, it's wonderful. And exactly, like, I think what I hear you saying is that, the reuse culture and idea and economy, that all is about service. It's not necessarily about the product itself. The products are great, but it's like, how do we create more services? Matt, Liz, Ben, do you agree with that? Or what do you think?
I think that one of the most interesting things about this whole mess that we found ourselves in is that I don't think that we really enjoy throwaway culture that much. I mean, I don't enjoy eating my food out of takeout containers. It's kind of gross. Like with all of this disposability, when you see the companies that are coming out now creating really beautiful, durable products, right, that are designed to last a lot longer, and that are beautifully crafted, and somebody has spent time creating that product, I think that that's a much better experience. I think people like things, people like well-made, durable products that are designed to be reused. And so I think that there is this weird lie that we got sold, that this convenience was somehow the most important thing. And I think that, we just need to shift our thinking a little bit, and we need brands to sort of like sell us on this other vision of a world where we're surrounded by beautiful, durable products, right? I think that there's something beautiful about that.
Definitely. I absolutely agree. I'm personally someone who loves quality over quantity all the time. And knowing that, the vintage things that from my past, from my parents' past, that I appreciate these days were super durable and they made a difference and they lasted this long. So I don't totally agree. I hope more companies will see that vision as well. Ben, Matt, anything to add there?
Yeah. One thought that I have that I've been excited to see is, so in the digital space, we see a lot of membership-based services. I do think that it hints towards this kind of post-ownership model that we're headed towards. Like, as cars become self-driving, do we really want to own a car, or do we just want to like lease a service so that we can have this car? And so if it's going to work for the luxury product, it's going to make its way down, right? Why bother buying clothes that you're going to be tired of in a year or maybe 6 months? What if you could just rent them and just subscribe to them and return them for credits and so on and so forth? The role that I see for someone like me as just an artist is to hopefully close the gap between hearts and minds, remind people of the urgency of the now, that this is something that needs to happen quicker, faster, and easier. And that's, if you can get the public going along, then the investors are going to kind of follow along, the politicians are going to follow along, and the whole thing can kind of snowball a little bit.
We definitely all have a role to play, for sure. And I think it's this ping pong between supply and demand, and like figuring out who's going to go first, who's going to jump first. Is it the consumer? Is it the business? It's both at the same time. And I think there's also a question of access. And Matt, I'd love to hear from you on that.
I think when you talk to people, a lot of folks are just overwhelmed by the throwaway culture, the throwaway society. It's like you were saying, Liz, you go to the grocery store, everything's wrapped in plastic. You sit down to eat at a restaurant and your food comes on a throwaway plate with plastic cutlery, and you get food delivered to your house. It's a throwaway nightmare. And I think that a lot of us intuitively know that just bringing our reusable water bottle or our coffee cup everywhere is just not going to solve the problem. And so we've been sold this myth, I think, that we can shop our way to sustainability, but that really ignores the fact that these are systems problems, and you can't transform a system at the end of the chain. We really have to work upstream to redesign the systems that are generating all the waste. And so, ensuring that these new reuse systems and services are equitable and aren't just happening in Marin, but they're happening in Oakland. We know that things can mainstream when it becomes accessible, when it becomes available to everybody. And so it's investment from the companies that are putting their products in reusable systems, and it's also investment on the government side to make sure that the infrastructure is there to collect it all. And so making sure that that's done across the board is really how we're going to make sure that people have access to these new systems and services and ideas.
Now another chance to win. The first person to answer correctly in the window below wins. Here's the question. When and where was the first US-based comprehensive reuse policy passed that mandated reusables for dine-in? A. March 2019 in San Francisco, California. B. January 2019 in Berkeley, California. Or C. February 2020 in Seattle, Washington. Coming up, making our vision for a reusable, circular economy a reality. But first, the nominees for the most innovative reuse company are Algramo. Its smart dispensing system lets you buy refillable and affordable cleaning products like Clorox and Pine Sol, eliminating the need for single-use packaging. Reaply, which allows big companies, small businesses, and universities to swap and sell everything from ski motors to printers to microscopes, creating a circular marketplace for tools and office supplies. And Turn, where returnable is the new sustainable. Turns digital platforms simplify reusables and rewards users when they return them using its reverse vending machines.
Hello, my name is Christian Kaufholz, Head of Affiliate Programs at the Global Plastic Action Partnership of the World Economic Forum. I want to congratulate all the amazing companies, organizations, and individuals who are being featured tonight at the first annual National Reuse Awards. Tonight, I am thrilled to announce the winner of Most Innovative Reuse Company. So, without further ado, the Reusie for Most Innovative Reuse Company goes to Ripley.
Hey Reusies, thank you so much for the Most Innovative Reuse Company Award. We're Ripley. If you saw our last submission video, you saw that I did promise that if we won this award, I would get tattooed. So we are prepping the tattoo as we speak. Thank you so much everybody for voting for us. Thank you Reusies for selecting us. We're going to use this to continue our momentum to reuse more. We need to be able to do more, plan a better future for a more sustainable future. Thank you so much. We'll see you all soon.
With all of the injustices and traumas that are happening around the world as we speak, whether you're looking overseas in the Middle East, we're seeing right here on American soil, the injustices within, police brutality and racial injustice. There are so many issues that every single one of us are seeing, witnessing, experiencing. Why in the world should anyone really care about the reuse movement over or more as a higher priority than these other things that are happening and to other human beings? I think that's a question that I ask myself all the time, and my gut kind of reaction to that is the simple fact that the planet itself is our spaceship. It's pushing us through this crazy universe, and we're here destroying our own life support system. And so without that support system being intact, none of the other issues matter, because most of them are actually rooted in environmental injustice. And I think that if we can reconnect people back to the planet, back to Earth, back to nature, and see the importance of shifting out of this mode of extraction and wasteful practices, I think that reconnection will invigorate the movement even more. Ben, I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on that question?
It's a big question. I don't think it's an either or. I think it's a yes and. We don't have no one issue is more important than another issue. If it's important to you and it's something that you're willing to put your life and center it around, then all the power to you. Super stoked. This doesn't mean that you can only do one thing in life. You can do a ton of different things. You can care about a lot of different things. The topic of consumption is one that I think is really accessible to all. And I think there are so many people in the world that are actually lacking purpose as opposed to the opposite. And so as long as you're taking some action, as long as you're looking at something and saying, I care about this, all these issues are interconnected. So one day you're going to start caring about the reuse movement if you care about social justice. One day you're going to come back here if you care about poverty. It's all interconnected. Because we can't live life as simple binary beings, right? We're layered, we're complex, and we touch upon so many things as we go through life. So yes and, not either or.
Yes and, amen to that. Liz, what about you?
Yeah, but when you look at the statistics about how much we're creating and how this is supporting the oil industry and how much of this is ending up in the oceans and how much of that is turning into microplastics that are poisoning sea animals and that are ultimately poisoning us. When you start looking at the scale of the problem, I think that suddenly takes something that seems very small and inconsequential and makes it seem, much more powerful, right? Because it's a terrible thing that is destroying the planet, as you mentioned. But I think the other thing that really angers me is when when we've talked about the history of how we got here. And so much of this is really about big corporations that have made a lot of money from destroying the planet, right? And who is most harmed when we destroy the planet. It's communities that can't really afford to deal with these kinds of issues, right? It's the people who can't afford to buy, higher end fish, right, or that's farmed in a particular way, or organic food, right? It's people whose lives are already hard and are going to be made harder because of the decisions that really were not made by individuals, but were made by corporations trying to make a lot of money.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Liz. Well said. Yes. Bridget, what are your thoughts?
Look, I think that the answers that you three gave were really good. So I'll do my version of, I guess, Bridget splaining similar things. But I think, so a couple things. One is, if you have an issue that moves you to act, to Ben's point, go after that. Like, these are all, this is not more or less important. You can't put you can't put in order which issue comes first, second, or third. They're all equally critical. And so that's just like the reality of living in a complex world. But Danny, your point about, if we don't solve this issue, all the other issues become moot. There was social justice, and then there was the environment, and they were two separate issues. And it was really hard to have a conversation. It was all about polar bears somewhere very far away. And it was very hard to have a conversation about how this impacted the communities that you lived in. And people didn't really buy that. And it's become very visible in the last, couple of years, unfortunately, just how true that is. So all of the things, Liz, that you mentioned, like, those are very visceral issues now. And so I guess I'll finish just by saying to Ben's final point around, it doesn't have to be either or. You can go spend all of your emotional energy working on the issue you care most about, and then you can just like bring your reusable mug as like a daily habit and behavior. And when you see a cool solution in the store, go use it, so that the big companies see that market signal and want to serve you. Like, use the better experiences that are out there.
I love that. Yeah, it's like picking the thing that you care about most over everything, and then figuring out which gifts and talents and skill sets you have personally that can be applied to that, and just go full throttle with it. I mean, it's daunting at first, and it's scary because of the society that we live in. We're taught the opposite idea, but it now more than ever is the moment. This is the moment for people to do that and to step into their own purpose and power. And once we do that, I think the world will be an even more beautiful place, because we'll see people living 100% centered in what they're supposed to be doing here. Because we're all a part of this ecosystem. We're all a part of this body of society that we're just here to serve each other. At least that's how I see it. I think we're here to serve each other, love one another, love the planet. I know it's very like probably a little woo-woo or grassroots, but that is truly my heart part that I feel. And if we just need more ushers to step up and not be afraid to say that. But Matt, I'd love to round it out with your thoughts on this as well.
I think that for me, what makes this issue important is that when you look at the kind of root of a lot of these problems that we're encountering, from environmental issues to racial justice issues to political issues, a lot of it actually is rooted in this broken kind of take, make, waste economic system that we've been stuck in for quite some time. And, if you look at, the wars that have been fought over the last 100 years, it's usually about two things. It's about ideology, or it's about natural resources. And so, the continued kind of one-way, throwaway economy mindset, which is basically just churning materials and natural resources from the planet, and that is not helping us solve these problems, and it's disproportionately impacting poor people and people of color around the world. If we can start to fix that system, if we can start to build something that is more human and more beautiful and more resilient in its place, I think we're going to start to see a lot of these other issues also being solved through that process. Because it's not just about saving trees or protecting sea turtles. It's really about, like, how do we create an economy that works for everybody. And so I think that for me, that's where this reuse piece comes in, because we have to do that. Just like you were saying, Danny, about Spaceship Earth. We have to do that. We have to be able to live sustainably on this planet, so that we have time to solve all these other problems that we've got going on.
Congrats to all of our trivia winners so far. This is your final chance to win. Are you ready? What's the potential value of the reuse economy for food service in the US? 800 million, 7.5 billion, or 24 billion? A very special thanks to our partner, Patagonia, for donating the trivia prizes tonight.
What is up, y'all? It is me here, Michael Franti, and I'm here just to give you guys a big shout out. The Reusies. I mean, this is something that the time has long been overdue for. Just an award that recognizes people who are doing great stuff for the world by encouraging reusing and upcycling. And man, I want to give a big shout out to all the finalists and winners because you guys rock. 2021 is a year when the whole world has been awakening to just new ways of being and new ways to show up for not only the health of us as individuals, but as communities and as a planet. And you guys are doing your best to be examples to other people who are out there, other businesses, other organizations, other individuals who can find ways to be their best. So all that being said, I just thought I'd sing you guys a little bit of tune in honor of this year's Reusies. And great thing about a guitar is it's something you get to reuse over and over again. And once I'm done with it, somebody else will be able to play this same guitar. So to all you instrument builders out there, remember, you're doing great stuff in terms of reusing. All right, so this is a song that goes like this. Good days, please come more often. Everybody's in the streets out coughing. Smog in the air, gonna send it to your coffin. Plastic everywhere down there with the dolphins. Everybody was born to a mama, so everybody is connected like karma. So disconnect yourself from the drama. Everybody's trying to heal like trauma. You know it's never been easy. Every day for everybody ain't breezy. And I hope you realize when you look into another person's eyes, you know today would be a very good day just to have a good day. You know today would be a very good day just to have a good day. With a little more love and a little more laughter, a little more good vibes, less disaster. Today would be a very good day just to have a good day. All day long, all day long, all day long. Hey, all you people out there in Reusie land, keep up the great work. Keep inspiring people all around the planet to reuse, and we're gonna make the planet a stronger, healthier place with less stuff just floating around. So thank you for all the work you guys are doing, and I love you. Peace.
And Bridget, in terms of investments in these new systems, what are some examples of maybe new infrastructure that you might be investing in that makes you excited, that you're looking forward to, that might be coming in the near future?
Yeah, so the places that we're investing most in, and this is because this is where the market signals are being created. And so I'll back up and just say that all of the groundwork that the many kind of activists and every single kind of panelist here, all of you, and probably many in the audience are creating by saying, we want these new systems, the media drumbeat, all these things that are happening is creating a market signal for some of the big companies that are saying, okay, this is what our consumers want. This is what the regulators want. My hope is that we're actually creating less choice in the future for people so that it's simpler and we're not asking consumers and people to do an impossible task of guessing if this thing that might look like a totally different material, but they look the same, but they're actually different things. And one goes in the compost and one goes in the recycling. We need to toss all of that away and make it a lot simpler for the consumers. At the same time, working with small companies and communities who might be able to move much faster. So there's some really cool models out there, cup models that you can actually drop your, pick up a cup at your local cafe, drop it in a container, it gets sanitized and brought back into the system. So you, the consumer, doesn't have to remember to bring your cup on your own. So these are some of the cool models that we've started investing in. So it's the reuse movement, kind of needs to be bubbled up regionally and then kind of scale beyond that. But we're seeing some really cool models of reusable kind of cleaning products that can be in a reusable container that's like a smart container and actually costs less because they're not paying for the packaging each time. Really, and they're licensing out the refill machines to some of these big brands and retailers are doing direct to consumers.
Oh, that's great. And I think when you speak about that thing called waste apathy, that comes from paradox of choice, having too many choices. I definitely deal with it. So Ben, for you as an artist, when you're dealing with people who are critical of the reuse movement or don't think that it's possible or just can't see the vision, how do you overcome that with your art?
I think one of the benefits of being an artist is that the work that you create is not meant to speak to everyone. Like, I obviously try to create work that will speak to the most people possible, and I'm very aware of the like just creating art alone in a vacuum isn't really helpful. You need to figure out how it can be used by the different players in the ecosystem. And so I do a lot of thinking behind it, but at the end of the day, there are some people who have other issues right now. And so they're not going to be focused on plastic. They might be focused on, I don't know, putting food on the table, for example. At the end of the day, I think this kind of like social change happens as a result of seeing others that believe in the same things that you do. And so as long as you can create momentum behind it and sustain the conversation, I think that's what's really the most important. I think when we think of change, we maybe think of it in too much of a binary fashion. It's like change or no change, but it's like maybe it's less about the exact degree when water turns to ice, but like the spectrum of transformation that happens that may be very, very much invisible.
When we're creating this future vision, I think it's also important to have a great, not PR system, but like having a better way of amplifying this message. And art is one way, but what are some other opportunities that we have at our fingertips right now to help, expand this story about the reuse culture and reuse movement? Matt, do you have any insight on that?
I think policy is a big one because when you get into these legislative committees, you have, the biggest companies in the world that are there that are are now having to contend with policymakers that want to change the way that they do business. And, I think that the way we look at policy is really around sectors. So, for example, in the food service sector, we've developed an ordinance that cities can pass that makes it so that when you sit down to eat at a restaurant, you're going to get served on real plates and real cups and real cutlery. And it also helps pave the way for these reuse services to come in for takeout and to go and delivery. When you're looking at beverages, for example, we've got this tried and true model called the bottle bill, which has a, deposit. You put a deposit on a bottle, and lo and behold, here in my home state of Maine, where we've had this going on for 40 plus years, about 95% of the bottles get returned for recycling. And what's also really exciting about that is that in Europe, and we're starting to have this conversation here in the United States as well, we're talking about reuse and refill targets for the beverage industry. So just like the auto industry has to abide by fuel economy standards, so across the fleet of automobiles, you have to make sure that they all reach a certain miles per gallon standard. It's the same idea for beverages. So across, if you're Coca-Cola, across all the bottles you sell in the United States, you'd have to sell a certain percentage in reuse and refill. And that can also work its way up to the consumer packaged goods sector and personal care products and et cetera, et cetera. And that's the conversation that we're working to really gin up here in the United States, because that is what's going to help, force the conversation. It's going to help the big companies to see that they need to kind of figure out how to make these changes so that we can get people what they want and need without the waste.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. Liz, I'm curious from your perspective and stories that you've written, what sectors, like Matt mentioned, do you see kind of at the forefront of what's next?
I think it's been really exciting seeing what various large companies are doing to sort of respond to consumer sentiment. So, I've been tracking this story that emerged over the last 3 or 4 years, and it all began because there was this turtle in the ocean that had that straw up its nose, right? Everybody remembers this. And it was so strange because, I've been writing about sustainability for such a long time. And there was this moment where everybody freaked out because of the turtle, and it was kind of weird because in a short amount of time, so many companies started making commitments around getting rid of straws. Hotel chains started saying that they were going to use paper straws instead. Companies started inventing new straws. I mean, it just spurred a lot of innovation, right? Because of that turtle. So I guess my overarching point here is that I think that when populations speak up, when consumers speak up, it can produce change.
I think what you're pointing toward is the fact that we, as human beings, naturally gravitate toward empathy. And we saw an animal suffering, and therefore that sparked a different thought and process about that particular item. But there are a lot of people that would argue taking away plastic straws is just one little drop in the bucket, and it's not really going to affect the larger change that we need. And then also grappling with capitalism and how we sell things and this culture of wanting to continue to make more, build more, and build in that way. Bridget, I'm going to point this to you. I'm just curious to hear your perspective on that. How do we balance those two things when it comes to capitalism, empathy for others and other living beings, and making sure that the system can be in balance?
I think that it can feel very daunting. And so I think it's really important for people to realize we don't need 100% transition. I think to Ben's point about it's not all or nothing, there is this spectrum. There are these tipping points. If we reach 10% of consumers, then we're at a point where there's real value in the market to shift, and companies can start making money on services, on things with less packaging. They can make more of the money on the product and the service instead of having to spend that on a new package every single time.
And Matt, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to respond to that. I liked what you said, Bridget, earlier about, I think it was you that said it earlier, about the consumer packaged goods companies are really in the middle of this system, right? On the other side, on the front end, are the extraction companies, and on the back side are the waste companies. And just to go back to the how the system came to be, right? The one-way throwaway economy is something that we invented here in America, and we exported it to the world. And it was really invented to serve the extraction companies. That's who it was designed to serve, right? The idea was to take natural resources from the planet, get them into our hands and get them out of our hands as quickly as possible and get them to a landfill so we could justify the kind of continued mining and drilling and clear cutting of the planet. And it wasn't done in any kind of nefarious way. It was just hey, this is how we're going to drive the economy. But you fast forward, again, 50, 60 years, and we've got, 7.5 billion people and growing, and we've exported this model all over the world, and it's broken and it doesn't work. And so, that's really the system that we have to undo. And in my mind, it's not about undoing capitalism or foregoing the pleasures of life. It's really about how do we cut off that extraction point? How do we build a more circular economy where we're cutting off, all of the extraction of natural resources from the planet on the front end, and on the back end, cutting off the waste and the pollution, so that we're really designing systems that enable human creativity to flourish while also doing that in ways that allow the people of this planet and the planet's inhabitants to flourish as well.
Wonderfully said, Matt. That's beautiful for sure. The human creativity is unstoppable. We've proven that time and time again through generations after generation. And now this is our moment. This is our time to create something new. And it makes me so excited. And Ben, what advice would you give for those watching? How do you get started in the reuse movement?
I think to remember that, you can affect change wherever you have influence. And so Matt touched upon this a little bit. So you have influence in your household, you have influence with your friends, you have influence in your community. And it doesn't matter if you're a waitress. If you're a waitress, you start in the restaurant. If you're in school, you start with your school. If you're if you're a corporate person, start in your corporation. You can start igniting these conversations anywhere. And initially, I think the conversation does feel very lonely. Because you're oh no, I'm the only weird person here that really cares about this stuff. But then what is that saying? You know, when you light a candle in the darkness, it like allows others to come and find you. It's like the best way to find your tribe is just to say like, this is something I care about, and to be loud and obnoxious about it, and others will come and be like, oh, that's really cool, I want to come and help you too, because I care about it too. And now you can have friends, and now you're not alone, and then now you're making change together, and then that small change can then become bigger change, and then one thing leads to another, and it can cascade from there.
Couldn't have said it any better. Thank you, Ben. Well, I think that's all I've got for you so far. And I'm just so thrilled to have been a part of this conversation, to hear the four of you speak vision to life, with you all at the helm and so many others who are a part of the Reusies and beyond. We've got options. We've got some exciting things coming in our future. And I'm just ecstatic to know that people like you exist. So thank you all so much for being a part of this panel.
Thank you for having us.
Woo. The votes are in, and we now are ready to announce the winner of the fan favorite reuse company. The nominees are Blue Land Cleaning Products, Just Salad, Plain Products Personal Care, Salt Period Care, and Stojo Collapsible Drinkware and Food Containers.
And the reuse for fan favorite reuse company goes to Plain Products Personal Care.
On behalf of the entire Plain Products team, thank you so much. We are so honored to win the Fan Favorite Reuse Company Award, and honestly, we were just excited to be nominated. Thank you to Upstream for creating the Reusies, and we are excited to be a part of the reuse revolution. Thank you.
We have come to the end of the first annual National Reuse Awards. Thanks for joining us for the Reusies 2021. For our VIP attendees, you will be automatically connected to the VIP breakout sessions coming right up. To everyone else, thank you for joining the National Reuse Awards, celebrating heroes of a world without waste. See you next year.
Metal spoons, metal forks, metal cups. These reusables work together to help keep our world plastic free. Reuse. Reuse all plastic disposables even if you get one. Rethink. Rethink using plastic disposables. Refuse. Refuse plastic in the first place. And remember to always love the world.